Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's the weekend. Well, it's a long weekend. It's not the weekend. It's the week, but it feels like a weekend because I had today off of work. I hope some people also had today off of work. Normally I do Cornerbox Classics, and I was getting ready for Cornerbox Classics. I knew I said I wasn't going to do anything this week because of Hank's surgery. And that it got postponed. There was an emergency that took his surgeon away, and he was very busy with that, obviously, and could not. We could have waited, but it would have been all day, and Henry had already not eaten, and his thing is not life or death. So I was just like, I'd rather not have a blurry-eyed, tired surgeon who got pulled into an emergency situation, and who was probably ready to punch out for his long holiday weekend to quickly operate on my child. So I was like, we'll wait a week. It's fine. But I was trying to get ahead of the thing, and I was looking at what I had coming up in Cornerbox Classics, and it was like this massive week, and it was partially a massive week because I had something in there that during my research was like dated as coming out that week, but then when I was looking at it, I was like, there is no way that this came out, and so here we are, a Marvel movie special, Cornerbox Classics, because the book that was mixed in there was Raiders of the Lost Ark #1. Written by Walt Simonson with pencils by John Buscema, inks by Klaus Jensen, letters by Rick Parker, and colors by Michelle Wolfman. And Raiders of the Lost Ark, in my opinion, this all is sort of, it all works together, right? Because I know that anyone who knows me knows that the #1, see, Henry was named after two of my favorite doctors, Dr. Hank McCoy and Dr. Henry Indiana Jones. That's who the kid was named after. I was like, two doctors, that'll be great. And they're both adventurous and Avengers until Hank McCoy got turned into a monster by Marvel, but that's neither here nor there. We can focus on the Indiana portion of it. And so I was going to pull this into Cornerbox Classics, and I was like, oh, great. And then I was looking at it, and I was like, I am in 1982. And Raiders of the Lost Ark graced our movie screens on June 12th, 1981. I was, my mother was pregnant with me. I was not yet born. So this missed my initial Cornerbox Classics because I started this whole thing. You know, once again, I've read everything from the 60s to the present, or to 1982, which is what I'm in right now. But I did not pull this in because I had it filed for some reason with 1982. So I was like, what kismet. I get to, you know, the kid's named after it. I wasn't going to do the show because of surgery. It didn't happen. So I was like, here we are. It's Memorial Day. What better way than my favorite Nazi puncher? So we're going to talk about movie specials. So there you go. So, plus, Marvel just announced, because, so I have the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, all 3 issues. I'm not going to go through them like I normally would with Cornerbox Classics, because if there's anyone out there who has not seen the movie, just go watch the movie, because these adaptations are great. The John Buscema art is fantastic. Okay, there is no doubt about it that a team up of John Buscema and Klaus Jensen, like, it's good stuff. Problem is, upon reading these, I had a couple qualms, because I was reading this and the sword fight shootout, the classic sword fight shootout, not present in the comic book. And there is another thing that was, I think, one of the greatest. Okay, understand. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think it's one of the greatest films ever made. And I think one of the greatest transitions in films is when Marion holds up the piece and is like, we're partners. I just, like, that is such a great moment, okay? And it's not anywhere in this comic. And so I was a little bit bummed by that. But the artwork is great. you know, the last page has like the movie credits, which I thought was fantastic. So I obviously born after a few months after the movie had come out in theaters. So I believe the first Indiana Jones movie that I would have ever seen in the theaters was Last Crusade. And that right there is like, I struggle with which I like more. Last Crusade is my go-to Father's Day movie. I watch it every Father's Day. That is like my, it's my thing. I actually got this my first Father's Day. It says, it's not the years, it's the mileage. So my wife, Ashley, Mrs. Basement, she had never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark when we first started dating. And so there is a old movie theater in the town that I grew up in, and they, throughout the summer, will play classic films. And it's a great little movie theater, but the problem is there's no, like, you can't go online and buy tickets to this like you can these days and, like, pick a seat. You gotta, like, be there, and it sells out because it's a tiny little town. It's like, I often describe it as, like, Stars Hollow, if you've ever watched Gilmore Girls. Like, there's, you know, it's the same people going to these movies, and you just gotta be there. It's a whole thing. So Creature from the Black Lagoon there this last Halloween. I've seen tons of Christmas movies there. It's a Wonderful Life, because the theater was like in danger of getting shut down at some point, and so the town rallied together. And then, you know, I first saw Edward Scissorhands there because it's sort of like when I was a kid, it was like a second run, you know, like after movies were out of the big theaters, they would play it at this tiny little theater where it's like, you know, it's adorable. So I saw Edward Scissorhands there, and they had a ice sculpture festival outside of it in the little park that it's by. So like that, I mean, you know, if you know anything about Edward Scissorhands, walking out of that film into a like snowstorm ice festival was pretty much perfect and embedded in my brain as like a core memory from there. So my wife had never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I was like, I cannot stand for this. So luckily this theater was playing it, and we went there. You got to stand in line, so you wind up like hanging out, chatting with the people that you're in line with. And there was an older couple there who were also flabbergasted that my wife had never seen it. So they asked if they could sit next to us. And I'm not kidding. The entire time, they just, like, I think they gave up watching the film and they just watched my wife's reaction. Like, they were getting more joy out of watching someone who had never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark watch it for the first time than actually watching the movie again. So yeah, that was that. There is also another theater, this old theater just outside of Detroit called the Redford Theater, and they do screenings with like the other ones probably just they throw them in a DVD or whatever, you know. But the Redford Theater, they do like full on 35 millimeter film screenings, and so I took my wife's grandfather there just like last summer. We went and saw this where I got to, because there's a guy that like he silk screens these shirts while you wait, like while you're watching the movie. He's out in the lobby making these shirts celebrating the fact that it's 35 millimeter screening of Raiders. And the great thing about that theater is there's a in the front, there's a pipe organ that lifts out of the stage. And so there's a guy that did the score, you know, and it's awesome. So that was a lot of fun, and I love these 3 issues. I am very sad that I do not own the Temple of the Doom issues or the Last Crusade issues, but I have a few, and I've been trying to piece together a run of the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones released by Marvel so that I could have pulled that into Cornerback's Classics. It's a tough series to track down, but Marvel just announced that they're putting, this was why this was all like, oh, this is perfect. Marvel just announced that they're putting them in these like leather bound, and I know I'm like, well, I'm gonna get rid of trades, but this actually seemed pretty cool because obviously this whole section of the basement is comics, but then over there my wife was like, we need a movie section where I can put up old movie posters. There's actually a Raiders of the Lost Ark poster in there, and all that type of stuff. So we have like movie memorabilia and stuff kind of over there, and so those will fit. They'll fit perfectly. These little like leather bound tomes. I don't know, of Indiana Jones comics. So I was all excited about this. So these were fun. I got to hand it to Walt Simonson because that had to be, I can only imagine. And why? I mean, I understand. Like, I was doing this and I was like, why doesn't Marvel do more movie adaptation comics anymore? And I was like, oh, right, because they just make movies now. They don't need to do these, but these were fun. I don't know what other ones were out. There might have been a Blade Runner one, I think, but I have no idea. But that was pretty fun. So, when I took my wife to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, after that weekend, whatever, I went to the old social media, the old Facebook, and I posted something about kind of asking pals, family, friends, you know, the people that you're connected with or whatever, whether they felt it necessary for her to watch, should she watch Temple of Doom, or could I just skip to Last Crusade? Because I'm not the biggest fan of the Temple of Doom. And unsolicited, Peter David of all people was like, I just swooped in there and was like, absolutely. And here's why this movie is, you know, not like, this is why you should take this movie seriously. And yes, it is worthy of a watch. And so I was like, I mean, it's Peter David. So I was like, all right, I'll give it another go. And I did enjoy it much more when he kind of, you know, much like I do with the X books right now, where I'm like, gotta kind of reframe this in my head. And it was better than I remembered. This is going to make people angry. I don't mind Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I thoroughly enjoyed the final Dial of Destiny. Really enjoyed it. Took my dad to see it. It's probably the last movie we're ever going to see together, because I don't even think he understood what was going on. I think he was a little lost. But it was a nice, you know, he was the person who introduced me to these films when I was a kid. He's the person who introduced me to a ton of films as a kid. He was a big movie guy. But that was probably it. So maybe I haven't watched it since. I wanted to watch it with Ashley, but you know, Hank, we don't have a lot of time to watch anything that's not Chippendale Rescue Rangers or Spidey and His Amazing Friends, which I don't mind, but you know, I'm watching a lot of Cars these days. Not really like, hey kid, want to sit down and watch Dial of Destiny? That day is coming, but that's where it's at. But yeah. This was pretty good stuff. I went to a religious high school, and I got extra credit in my religion class because I brought in a copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark so we could watch it. And the entire time, I was sweating bullets because my dad, big movie fan, right? He would wait. They used to do these things where you'd get like HBO or Cinemax or whatever for like 2 weeks during the summer, and my dad would just tape everything. So we had this like how I have comics. He had like libraries of movies and a little book with like, if you want to find out where this movie is, it's this number tape. And there had been times where we had like, I taped over, you know, stuff with like Power Rangers episodes or whatever, and I was terrified. I was like, I'm in high school, I'm still watching Power Rangers on the download. And I was like, I took the tape in and I was like, I didn't watch this to vet it, that it, you know, like, that it could suddenly like it gets squiggly and then buffers into the Power Ranger theme or something, and then I'm made fun of for the rest of my high school career. That would have been bad. So that's my love for Indiana Jones, so much that I named my child after the good doctor. And obviously this comic did not come out in 1982, so it's not going to be covered on Cornerbox Classics. But I did read it the other night, and like I said, it was missing a couple of things that I thoroughly enjoyed, but otherwise it kind of nailed it. But it's a perfect film. Perfect. Like, there's no notes, obviously. So really, you don't need a comic adaptation, but I'm happy to have it. I'm happy to have it as part of the collection. And so then I was like, I don't, like, what other movie adaptations? You know, this is the big, you know, this weekend is always the kickoff to the summer movie season. I did not go and see The Mandalorian and Grogu. We actually were out at the theater, and there was a stormtrooper, took a picture with Henry as we were walking by, because we went in to get popcorn so that we could come home with Hank and watch planes, because I'm not going to see Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm watching I'm watching planes. You know, it's fine. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, obviously few months before I was born, but my first true like summer blockbuster experience happened in 1993. A few years before that, my mother and I both got pneumonia one summer, and so I was pretty much bedridden the whole summer. Pneumonia is what eventually did my poor mother in. So this one stings a little bit. But that summer that we both got pneumonia and I was bedridden with a little breathing machine, Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park came out. So this is a, like, you can see how tattered and torn. I have read this pretty much every summer since it came out. I was a child when this came out. I had no business reading this, but if there was one thing I was good at as a kid, it was reading. I was way ahead of the curve when it came to reading. I was on all sorts of little academic reading things. I was the kid that did like the Pizza Hut book it thing and read everything over the summer. And this one took a hold. And the film came out in 93, and my brother had lived on the West Coast. I have multiple brothers and sisters. One of my brothers lived on the West Coast, moved out there, and he had my first niece, and my first any type of, you know, this is the first time I was going to be an uncle. It was my parents' first grandchild, and so when she was born, my parents were like, we're doing a cross-country road trip to get out there. We're going to be gone for the whole summer. So that summer, between 5th and 6th grade, elementary school and middle school, on the last day of school, my parents picked me up, took me to go see Jurassic Park. By the way, I love the film. Also a perfect film. But the book, I implore you, if you have never read the book is so damn good. And it's so much better than the movie. And it's so good. So I'm going to start reading it again. I'm going to read it. I'm not going to read it right now. But that summer, as we did all sorts of things. It was like stop at Abraham Lincoln's childhood home, take a tour, go to a bunch of Civil War forts. I got a real weird... This summer, like, made me, like, the people who, like, reenact stuff at those types of places, it started to freak me out, because I was just like, that summer drive, that trip was fantastic. We went to, like, the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone and all this type of stuff. But, you know, we would stop at these things, and I'd see parents with their kids, like, doing these reenact, and I was like, is this just what they do all summer? Is there no, like, you don't get to go to a comic book store, like, play with it? I just assumed that they, you know, thankfully, I don't think they did, but it sort of made me weird about those things. But what we did during that was I also, because of, and that's why I was going to bring this up. So the other movie adaptation that I have is not Marvel, but it's Topps Comics of Jurassic Park. And this was written by Walt Simonson. with pencils by Bob Kane and inks by George Perez. And this is actually ridiculously faithful to the movie. It's actually a pretty shot for shot, adaptation of the flicks. You don't actually see De Niro. I wondered, I was like, because of some stuff being changed in the Indiana Jones adaptation, I was like, it's a comic book. I wonder if they're going to show De Niro getting it on the toilet. And they did. They didn't show it, but it happens. He's not so bad in the book. So, I mean, I still have the poly bag for this thing. I still have the cards that came with it. I loved this 4-issue miniseries and the film. I could give a rip about any movie that came out after the first one. Lost World, the book. Not that it was difficult, but the book is way better than the movie, as is the case. Also, this will probably get muted, but Ashley bought me this little... You get the idea. I don't want to get... this whole thing's going to get taken down just because of that 10 seconds. Yeah. So saw that the night that it came out. Right out of school. Car was already packed for this trip. And so then on the trip that we took to, meet my niece for the first time, I made my parents stop at every dinosaur museum. Every single one. And I mean, I made them stop in the Badlands of Montana. Like, I saw some fossils as a kid. I was very into it. Bought a hat like Alan Grant. My middle school dance was the first middle school dance that I ever went to. Was a Halloween dance, and it was the summer, or it was the Halloween after Jurassic Park. So I went dressed as Alan Grant. It did not go over. It did not go over as well as I thought it was going to. But there it is. Yeah. So these comics are also excellent and a good adaptation of the film, even though, like I said, I strongly recommend reading the book. And now I'm going to read the book again, too. So, yeah. So, that's what I was going to really quickly do. So, I just also wanted to let everybody know that Henry's fine because he didn't actually have surgery yet. It's been pushed off until next week. But, as I told everybody in the Wednesday video, that I had picked up the Lego Avengers Tower and that Spider-Man Lego set. I told him as we were getting in the car, because I'm loading him in the car to take him to surgery, and he was like, are we going to the Lego store? And I was like, we are certainly not going to the Lego store. And he was like, are we going to the comic book store? And I was like, it'd be cool if we were, but we're not. And I was like, but there's going to be some Lego surprises when you come home. And while he was in the car, I had gone back in. I didn't leave him in there. My wife was in the car with him. And I had put them out so when he came home, they'd be out. And then the surgery didn't happen. And I was like, oh, well, we're just going to spend Memorial Day weekend putting together these Legos. And we did. It looks fantastic. I'm not going to... I'll save it for the next room tour. So, yeah. So, movie adaptations. Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park. Those are the two that I have. I don't have any Star Wars comics. I have a guy who's trying to sell me a run of Star Wars adventures, but Henry has never seen anything Star Wars, and I'm not going to rush it. That's kind of everybody in my family was like, when are you going to show him the Avengers movies? And I was like, I don't know, 10 years from now? Maybe not. Maybe 8. But, can't be showing a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old Star Wars. You gotta wait till they can comprehend it. I don't know. I'm new to this. I could be completely wrong, but that's it. I just, I wasn't going to cover those because I realized that my timing was out, but but I still wanted to talk about it because I was like, holy smokes, Marvel's putting out the whole run of Further Adventures, and it'll have all of the movies in little cool, like it'll look good in the movie room, and I'll finally be able to read all of those Further Adventures. And then I was like, oh man, I also wanted to talk about Jurassic Park. So, you know, let me know in the comments. Did you also read those movie adaptations? Did you enjoy them? I'm assuming everyone has seen both of those films. What are your thoughts? Am I wrong for not enjoying the sequels for Jurassic Park as much as the rest of, as the original? I mean, I didn't really like 2. I liked 3 because I like Alan Grant, and I was happy that there were pterodactyls in it because that was a big chunk of the book that I thought was missing. And like I said, if you've never read this or The Lost World, and you liked the first movie, I highly recommend reading both books because it's fantastic. And yeah, let me know. Did you hate Kingdom of Crystal Skull? Because I didn't, and I thought I liked Dial of Destiny. Yeah, I didn't think. I know everybody like lost their minds because there was a lady in it. Which is something that seemed to happen like 10 years ago. All of a sudden, everybody started losing their mind because, holy smokes, gals might be in films. But I thought, what is it, Phoebe Waller-Bridges? I don't know what her name is. I thought the character was fine. I didn't have a problem. I liked it. I thought the movie was good. I you know, it ended in a way, and I know other people were like, oh, I don't want to see Indiana Jones. Old. I do. You know why? Because I'm getting old. What sucks more? What sucks more? Watching a movie where Indiana Jones gets old and you're like, holy shit, time catches us all. Or what they did to Peter Parker in Amazing Spider-Man, where they make him perpetually 11. I would much prefer to watch my hero grow old with me than like have like, no. I'm okay with an old Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford still got it. All right. Yeah. So thanks everybody for the well wishes about Henry. It sucks to be on the roller coaster of him having to go back again for surgery because we got ourselves all psyched up. And even though it's, I'm being assured 100% routine, it's still a nerve-wracking thing. I'm more concerned about the family. And obviously the kid that got pulled in before Henry, because that was an emergency. So we were that day counting our lucky stars that we were able to just leave and take our kid to go get ice cream and to go to the movies, to get popcorn, to go home and watch planes and build Legos. That's how it should be. And I certainly hope that that family that was in there before us is able to go to the movie theater, get popcorn, watch planes, make Legos, and all that jazz. So, obviously, since we're all pals, I'll let everybody know when the time swings back around for this to happen again. And I'll be back Wednesday. Probably be late because it's the last Wednesday of the month and I always have a late meeting that day at work. So, but the weather has finally, like it's getting like 80 degrees one day, 50 degrees, and now we finally seem to be edging into summer. So we'll bike up there Wednesday, talk about new books, and then I have Cornerbox Classics. I'm back in, and Cornerbox Classics is a good one. It's got, Amazing Spider-Man, Captain America, Hercules. Everybody knows how much I'm enjoying that series. A Marvel 2-in-1 annual. There was something where I saw it and I was like, bleh, Defenders, probably. No, it wasn't Defenders, it was Micronauts. There's a Micronauts instrument issue tossed in there. Thor and Wolverine. That's the Cornerbox Classics coming up. So I'm going to hop out of here and bring the kid down here, and we're going to tear apart those Legos that we spent all weekend building. So yeah, so thanks for hopping in for this weird movie special. And yeah, I'll see you on Wednesday for New Comic Book Day and Cornerbox Classics coming up. Thanks for taking this ride with me.